At the time when we met on the day, we were given a full report by the department, by police. They gave us a full report. The social development gave us a full report. And of course, we are happy that there have been also an interaction between the province and the very first hospital doctor that saw, for instance, Cwecwe. And therefore now, there is no question as to whether there was or there was no rape, there was a rape. As a matter of fact, from the information that we have heard, is that there is a possibility that it was not even the first time that Cwecwe herself was raped. So it's something that needs investigation.
The absence of foreign DNA on the 7-year-old victim, combined with the lack of eyewitnesses and the complexity of the investigation, suggests a calculated approach by the perpetrator. The reoccurring nature of the assault implies familiarity, opportunity, and a degree of confidence in evading detection. The absence of DNA evidence strongly suggests the perpetrator took deliberate steps to avoid leaving biological traces, such as using condoms, gloves, or an object to commit the assault. This level of forensic awareness is atypical for impulsive offenders and points to someone with either prior experience in sexual crimes or knowledge of investigative techniques. The repeated assault without detection further indicate premeditation, planning, and an understanding of how to exploit the absence of witnesses, possibly by targeting the victim in an isolated or controlled environment. The perpetrator could likely be an offender with a criminal history. Someone with prior convictions for sexual assault may have refined their methods over time, learning from past encounters with law enforcement. This individual might be adept at selecting vulnerable targets, such as a young child unlikely to resist or report effectively. Alternatively, the perpetrator could be someone within or adjacent to the criminal justice system. For example, a police officer, security personnel, or forensic staff, granting them insight into evidence collection and investigative blind spots. Their proximity to the system could also explain the lack of progress in the case, as they might manipulate or monitor the investigation. Psychologically, the perpetrator likely exhibits traits of a power control offender. The repeated nature of the assaults suggests a need to dominate and exert control over a defenseless victim, with the forensic precautions reflecting a secondary desire to maintain power over the situation by avoiding consequences. If they have a criminal history, they may have developed a sense of invisibility, fueling their confidence. If in law enforcement, the assault could represent a pervasive abuse of authority, with the perpetrator rationalizing their actions as untouchable due to their position. The familiarity implied by the multiple incidents suggests that the perpetrator knows the victim's routine or environment, potentially a family member, neighbor, or trusted figure. The victim's silence could stem from fear, shame, or coercion, possibly reinforced by threats or the perpetrator's authority. Alternatively, the use of substance, for example sedatives, to render the victim unconscious could explain both the lack of resistance and her inability to identify the assailant, aligning with the methodical offender profile. A less conventional but plausible theory is that the perpetrator is someone enacting a form of displaced retribution or seeking attention through their assaults. The absence of DNA could still indicate the use of objects or barriers, but the motive might differ. This individual could be projecting their own unresolved trauma, perhaps a history of sexual abuse, onto the victim, using the acts as a distorted means of processing or externalizing their pain. The reoccurring assaults might be an attempt to draw public or investigative focus, either consciously or subconsciously, to their own plight.